Welcome to the Yoga in Black podcast. My name is Tammy, and I am the creator and host of this show. Really, the purpose of this is to shine a bright light on Black yoga instructors to help create safe places for our community to practice because we deserve it just as much as anybody else. Each episode, I bring you a new yoga instructor or wellness professional to share their story so you get a chance to know who they are, find where they are offering their classes, and experience all of the magic that they bring within this practice, whether it's yoga, whether it's something else. As long as it's holistic, we're all about it. So keep watching, keep listening, and I hope you enjoy the show. Thanks for being here. You know, something that doesn't often get talked about is how much courage it does actually take to be a yoga instructor. Imagine getting in front of a room full of people that are eager to learn about something that is not of a culture that they are accustomed to, nor are you, which is often the case in the United States. But you're passionate about it. You know how transformative it is and how it has transformed and affected your life. So you get up there and you do exactly what needs to be done. And I get to discuss that a little bit more with this week's guest, Tammy Nelson, along with so much more. We had so much fun chatting. So keep watching so you get a chance to get to know Tammy and all of her magic. All right, folks, welcome back to the Yoga in Black podcast. As always, it's Tammy here with you. And this week I am joined by Tammy Nelson, and I am so thrilled to get to meet you. I've been following you for a little while now, and I love your feed. It's just such a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful body of content. And I'm loving the things that you're doing with your community. So Tammy, tell us a little bit more about you. Who are you? Where are you from? All those things.
Yeah, so I live in Orlando, Florida. I was born in New York, but moved here very young, so I can consider myself a Floridian. But go back to New York very often and have a lot of family there, so I consider like New York second home. Brooklyn, New York, to be specific. Let's see what else. I'm Caribbean American, so my family, I'm first generation American. My parents are from Barbados and Jamaica. Very much love my culture, love my soca music, all of that. By profession, so my full-time profession, I'm a licensed mental health counselor. I specialize in trauma work, trauma and abuse recovery. And yoga wise, I'm a registered yoga teacher. And I didn't start teaching until 2020, but I've been practicing since like 2012. That's a whole story in itself. Uh,
We'll get there. Yeah.
yeah. I love movement. Like movement has been a big part of my life since I was a kid. I've been dancing since I was like 5, 6 years old. And, I was on a college dance team. So dance has been a huge part of my life. I skate. I love skating, roller skating, rollerblading, skateboarding, anything with wheels. I'm with it. Yeah, and I just love working out. I'm really into health and wellness. I'm vegan. That's like a big part of my identity as well. And trying to think what else is important. I mean, I guess those are like the major things about me. I'm probably forgetting other parts of who I am, but that's okay.
And that's okay. And some of it might come up as we're talking.
Yeah.
You just said so many things that just twinkled in my heart. I love skating too. I have not been on my rollerblades in quite some time because I haven't really found a place that's nearby to skate. Because my neighborhood's full of uneven ground and just the trails I'm not comfortable with, and there's always too many people. I'm like, let me figure out where to skate. Plus, I had an injury a few years ago that I'm still just like, okay, that you old now, you need to calm down. But it's so fun. As I agree, movement is such a huge part of my life too, and I because I mean, we were even, having these little discussions before we recorded. I can't stop moving.
Yeah.
I'm always needing to do something. And I'm grateful that I have the yoga practice to slow me down, but
Yeah.
still keep me moving in,
Right.
certain aspects if I want it to be, an asana day. Um, but yeah, I love all of that stuff. So, and I don't know what it is, but I always end up being surrounded by Barbadian and Jamaican women.
Really?
Yes.
What?
In the yoga, it's so crazy because I have another friend that is of the same descent, and she'll be
Nice.
opening up a yoga studio down here within the next few months, and I am so excited for her. But man, she will fly them flags so quick, and I'm like, hell yes, do that. I love it. Y'all have such great energy, and I think that's probably why I'm so drawn to y'all. It's just the energy is just it feels like home for whatever
Mhm.
reason.
Mm.
Y'all are amazing. Absolutely amazing. So tell me more about growing up in Brooklyn and what got you down to Florida.
Yeah, so I actually grew up in Florida,
Oh,
but
that's right. Backwards. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So my family, my parents, came from the Caribbean. They moved to New York, which is very typical of Caribbean people. We always end up in New York, and but my parents didn't want to. They were concerned about us being raised in the area where we were living. So
Mhm.
when I was around like 4 years old, we moved to Florida, Central Florida, and growing up in Florida was great. Like Disney all the time, sunlight, heat. It's warm all year, well, most of the year. And yeah, I just remember just really enjoying growing up in Florida. We traveled a lot as kids, which I really appreciate my parents like allowing us to see other parts of the world. But New York was like a common thing, going back to New York, spending summers in New York. So I really appreciated being able to stay connected to New York as we were living in Florida.
That's
So
so cool. That is so cool. Man, I can only imagine what that experience is like to have grown up on an island and then move here
yeah,
and yeah, and just have that full experience and what it instills in their children, or
yeah,
so, namely you. Yeah, man, that life experience. Because I, I wish I had the opposite experience where I have
mm,
now experienced other countries and cultures, and I haven't had that yet. I've traveled to Jamaica once for a
mm,
vacation, but didn't really get to see it in the way that I wanted to.
mm,
It was a beautiful, beautiful experience, but and everyone was just so, again, like I said, that energy.
yeah,
I didn't want to leave at all. Oh man, but the culture there is just so damn dope.
yeah,
Man,
yeah.
so that experience coming here, I can understand why they wouldn't want to necessarily stay in New York, even though New
Mhm.
York is a beautiful, beautiful place. I can get it. I can
Yeah.
get it.
Some parts are a
Yeah.
little rough, and yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about when yoga found its way into your life.
So I was in grad school when I went to my first yoga class. So this was around maybe 2012, 2013. And one of my friends who was in my graduate program with me, she invited me to the class. And at this time, I had quit the dance team that I was on, so I was having this like whole void going on where I was just like, oh, am I dancing? What am I doing with myself? So when I went to the yoga class, it's weird because it wasn't like a particularly good experience. When I went, like me and my friend were the only Black people in the class. And I just remember feeling like just very out of place. It, I couldn't like settle into the practice. I felt like I was being um, scrutinized in a way, like having to have the positions perfect. And I just remember feeling like just very anxious, feeling like the oddball, feeling out of place, and just not like really enjoying it. And but somehow like leaving that experience inspired me to develop my own practice. So I did enjoy like the physical part of it. It was just those extra pieces of like feeling weird, feeling out of place that I didn't like. So I started watching YouTube videos and just doing my own practice at home, and that felt that felt a lot better for me. And then I started to just like challenge myself to do like different poses. Like I would find different poses, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna learn how to do that. And I think that's kind of like the dancer in me. Um, that piece of it. And so I would like figure out how to get into certain poses, and then I would record it and I would put it on like my social media, not really like thinking much about it. And over time, like people would think that I was a yoga teacher, or they would just assume and like, hey, where are you teaching? And I'm like, I'm not a teacher. Like, and so it was just fun for me. And then I found that it was a great way of me relieving like stress. Like grad school was like super stressful. So that was like my peace. That was my way to like let all of that stress off. And but I never went back to another yoga class. Like that experience was
Wow.
like, I'm not going back. So I just over the years, it was just me, myself, and developing my own practice. And I don't know if you want me to get into like the teacher, how I got into teaching that aspect. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
So, reflecting back, I realized like before I did my yoga teacher training, it never occurred to me that I could be a yoga teacher because I never saw Black people as yoga teachers. It was always white women, white, skinny, blonde women. And it just never occurred to me. And even like when people assumed that I was a teacher or would ask me, it just never, the seed never planted. And it was like, no, that I can't, what, me? I can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I came across, so this 2020, pandemic changed a lot for a lot of people. And I came across this Black woman who was doing a yoga teacher training. And so I was like, oh, wow, okay. Like we are teaching. And I think she was probably maybe the first Black yoga teacher that was actually doing a training that I had ever come across. So, and then there was just a lot going on during 2020. This was around the time when George Floyd was murdered. So we all were just in this like huge emotional distress. And so I pushed myself. No, now I remember what it was. So it was that I saw that, and then I was at work, and one of my coworkers came up to me, and he follows me on social media, and he said something about, again, he was assuming that I was a yoga teacher, and he asked me like, hey, where do you teach? And I was like, oh no, I don't teach. And it was in that moment I was like, you know what, I'm tired of people asking me that. I'm just gonna do this. So,
Yes, yes. Own that shit. Yes.
so I registered for the training, and it was a beautiful experience. Like it was majority Black women, people of color. There was also, men and other gender identities, but it was majority Black women. And as we were like, learning what we needed to learn, we also would have discussions about what was happening in the world and about Black identity and being Black in a yoga space. And it was so cathartic, so therapeutic. It was exactly what I needed. And so completed that, and registered with the Yoga Alliance and everything. And then it became this whole thing of like, okay, now you have this certification, now you got to actually teach. Now you got to actually step out and do it. And that was a whole thing in itself too. But that was the journey to, becoming certified as a yoga teacher.
Yeah. Man, that time was pivotal for so many of us because this
Yeah.
whole thing started around that same time
Mhm.
too. Um, there was just so much need for drastic change, I think,
Yeah.
because we were all at a point where things were extremely visible and
Mhm.
able to actually sit, think, and ponder on things and like, okay, no, we got to make these shifts because clearly
Yeah.
life is too damn short. And at any second, it could be taken from us because of the fact that we are Black.
Right.
And that's
Right.
the only
Exactly.
reason. So that's where I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
going to sit here and just be sad about this again. And seeing that everyone had such a, drive for, being more aware of the lack of diversity or the bias that's,
Mm-hmm.
involved in this country. I'm like, okay, we're in the middle of a pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not necessarily comfortable with protesting. What can I do?
Yeah.
So I love that we all were able to collectively find our way to express our voice in that time because
Mm-hmm.
it was needed for
Yeah.
us to be able to be heard and do the things that we knew that we could do. Because like you finding that power within you to be like, you know what, damn it, everyone says it, I may as well just go ahead and do it. Absolutely, you
Yeah.
should. You deserve, because I had a similar experience too. Like I would, travel around to different studios and practice, and folks would assume that I was an instructor, and I'd be like, "Oh no, absolutely not." Like that's, and even though I've been, I trained to or in my 200-hour, like about a year and a half after I started practicing. So it was
Mm.
real soon after, but I didn't start teaching until a few years later.
Yeah.
And when people would be like, "Are you a teacher?" And I'm like, I don't know how to answer that question. Yes, but no. And I didn't really believe it for myself because I
Yeah.
didn't actually find a place that I felt comfortable teaching
Mm-hmm.
until a few years later.
Yeah.
And it's hard to accept that. And even like when I decided to do this full time, even though I'm not anymore now, but I spent 3 years of doing yoga instruction full time,
Oh, nice.
and it took me so long to just sit and be like, you can do this. It
Mm-hmm.
is possible. And it
Mm-hmm.
took that other Barbadian and Jamaican woman for me to understand that I could, because I saw her doing it. And I'm like,
Mm. Yeah.
well, if Georgette can do it, and she's got all of these other people that I now met through her, and
Yeah.
they're doing it, why can't I?
Right.
Why
Right.
shouldn't I? I should be doing this because it's
Mhm.
where I felt my heart was. So I'm so glad that you got to do that, and just take charge and move forward. So what's life been looking like since the training and starting to teach?
Yeah. So, like you were saying, there was this gap in time between getting certified and actually teaching. And I realized, like, even though I think it was then that it dawned on me, like, there's a big difference between practicing yoga and teaching yoga.
Say that again.
And I
Say that
thought that,
again.
right. And I thought that because I had practiced for so long, that teaching was just going to come easy or naturally. And, that wasn't the case. And it was just this whole identity thing, like, who am I as a yoga teacher? Like, who do I want to be? Who am I serving specifically? And that, it was a lot of like trying to figure that out. And then also like not having, the imposter syndrome, like, oh, what if, am I going to forget something when I'm teaching, or are they going to take me seriously, or are they going to benefit? Am I really benefiting anybody? Does anybody care? Like, what? Just all this
It never
doubt.
stops.
Right. And
Man.
I remember listening to this podcast. Oh my gosh, I cannot. Her name, the name's going to come to me whenever it comes. I'll say it. But I was listening to this podcast, and the woman who does the podcast, she was talking about that very topic of like getting the confidence to like actually start. And it was one line that she said that like the switch went on for me. And she was basically, I can't quote it perfectly, but she was just saying like, you have to just do it. When the opportunity comes, just say yes. Even if you don't feel confident, you feel like you don't know what you're doing, just do it. And that's the only way you're going to get into this like flow of becoming a teacher. And so a friend came to me with this idea of like, hey, let's do an outdoor yoga class. And he had this particular friend. He had started a running group, and during the pandemic, and trying to get like Black folks to come out, and just run together and be outside. And so I was part of this group, and that was like probably one of the my saving graces during that whole shutdown period. But he, was like, "Hey, you got your, yoga teacher certification. Let's do like an outdoor yoga thing." And that was the whole reason why I got into this, is because I wanted to serve my community. I wanted Black people to know, like, yes, this is for you too, and to feel safe to come and do it and see someone who represents them. So we organized this whole outdoor yoga thing in the park, and it was great. Like, we had a great turnout. And so doing that, we did like maybe like three of those, and that helped to build my confidence as a teacher, and just hearing from people like how they were benefiting. It's like, okay, yeah, all right, Tamara, you're doing something. You're you're making an impact. And then, I got an opportunity to teach for this gym. I connected with this like personal trainer, and he wanted to bring like yoga to his work, also Black male, similar, mission of, getting Black folks to come out, move their bodies, health and wellness. And so I was doing a yoga class, partnering with him for like a year, which was cool. But at a certain point, it just wasn't like, I didn't feel as certain things were not making sense for me anymore. And so I, ended that partnership, and I wanted to be more like on my own. And then it was then that I realized like I wasn't fully believing in myself. Like, I felt like I had to be connected to something or working under someone to, to do this. And so, yeah, so I wanted to step out and do things like on my own as an individual, like trust myself. And that's really been the theme of my this year is trusting myself. And so when I ended that partnership with the personal trainer, I was set on finding a space where I could like just start my own class, and I was, set aside the money, like, okay, I'm going to invest this amount of money for the year to like rent a space, and we're just gonna see what happens. And if it doesn't work, that's fine. Like, I set aside the money, and I'm prepared if it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
So I, at the start of 2023, this year, I was like looking for different spaces to rent, which was like a whole thing. Like, okay, where do I go? Like, who? And this, and I'll kind of maybe talk about this later, but I also feel like there's not this like community of, and maybe I just haven't found the community, but I
Or
feel like,
maybe you haven't built it yet.
right, true.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of feel like I'm just in this like silo, like trying to figure this out, and not really having anyone like locally that I can be like, hey, like, what's a good place to go to, or, how are you doing this? And
Yeah.
so I, was looking at like community centers and things like that, and looking into prices or whatever. But I went to this workout class, like a HIIT class, at this Black owned gym. And the owner of the gym, I actually had like met him a few years ago. I'm part of the Urban League, the Central Florida Urban League for young professionals, and I had met him through that organization a few years ago. So we got to chatting, and he was like, "Hey, I really wanted to incorporate like yoga in our gym." So we, decided, or he's allowed me to have host my own class in his gym on Sundays, which his gym is closed on Sundays. So it kind of worked out very well.
Ooh,
Yeah,
that's
yeah. So,
nice.
so I've been doing that since the end of January. I started that class, and it's like it's a journey. It's like it's a lot of work, like trying to build your own class like by yourself. And there's been moments where I'm like, do I really want to keep doing this? Or like, I'm not seeing like the results that I wanted. Or some days it's like, yeah, people came out great. And then 2 weeks later, it's like not the same number. And so it's been like this like up and down. And that's kind of like where I'm at now, is just in this like journey of still figuring out where do I want to be? What am I doing with this? Where do I want to be?
Yeah.
Trusting myself and just building. Yeah, so that's where I'm currently at.
Hey, that is such an amazing testimony because oh, you brought up so many really amazing points and really relevant points that I'm thinking that more than just the two of us
Yeah,
experience. Because as soon as you were talking, I'm like, me
yeah,
too. Dang,
hmm
I felt that too because I am also currently, working through that notion of you do not have to be attached to another space or another person in order for you to just do this.
hmm hmm
And though I've, created this kind of a thing and have put on classes with this, I haven't really done it for myself as just Tyranny,
hmm
with the exception of maybe like one workshop and a couple pop-up classes. I
yeah,
never really felt like I could do it on my own.
yeah,
And that imposter syndrome is a
hmm
mofo.
yeah,
Like it just seeps into your skin and just sits there and will rot out your thoughts to the
yeah,
point where you will talk yourself out of doing things that you know you're destined to do.
right,
And it's so frustrating, but I'm working through it
yeah,
along with you. So
yeah,
you are not alone. I'm currently in that same, or actually you've already found a place, but I'm still looking for somewhere to host some classes
yeah,
and figure this out, and trying to fundraise to be able to afford to offer the classes because I want them
right,
to be community based, where it's not
hmm
necessarily an expectation to pay, but
hmm
a donation based some sort of thing. So
yeah,
finding places that could either donate their spaces to me or offer them at
hmm
a deep discount. I was
yeah,
like, that's a struggle, but I'm the struggle is finding the confidence in myself to go out there and just, create space for not
right.
only me, but the people that I want to bring into these classes.
Right. And I think that's where like where community or like a community of yoga teachers is so important, like having a network or a group like locally where people can like y'all can share resources, or we can collaborate, or we can help each other, is important. And so I'm hoping one day to either find that or build that. Oh, and I completely, I wanted to also mention the other class that I'm doing. So I mentioned earlier I'm a mental health therapist, and so I've been also doing a lot of research because my specialty is trauma and yoga. Is there's a lot of research behind trauma and how it helps with. Sorry, a lot of research behind yoga and how it helps with trauma healing. And I did a certification in trauma informed yoga, and then I also started my own trauma focused yoga class. And so I do this yoga class with Victim Service Center of Central Florida, and which is a trauma based organization. They provide long term and advocacy and crisis services to survivors of crime and sexual trauma and other traumatic circumstances. I'm also a contracted clinician with them as well. And so, anyway, I built this curriculum for my trauma focused yoga class. I started it in June, will be a year. That class has been like a success for me. Like it's like my little passion project. I brought it to the agency, they loved it, and we found a yoga studio called Peaceful Peacock, which is in Orlando, Florida. They have donated their space for me to run this class, and it's free to the clients at Victim Service Center. And so that has been everything for me. And we've had a consistent group that comes. So the class is always well attended, and the clients have gotten so much out of it. And like I'm seeing these results, like I do assessments to measure progress, and the results are just amazing. and the improvement that I've seen with the clients over time through the practice of yoga. So I definitely wanted to like shine a little light on that because that's been a huge pride
Oh,
point for me.
absolutely. That is beautiful. That is so beautiful. It's just that's what it's all about.
Yeah,
I can't speak for everybody. For me to see those types of transformations in people,
yeah,
being able to overcome something that has been weighing them down for a long time. Um, because that's exactly what I wanted to do as an instructor when I first realized I'm like, this is what I want to share with everybody because it transformed me.
yeah,
And I want other people to experience this too, if that's what they are in need of and are wanting in that time. And to see it in real time is just, it makes it all so much
yeah,
worth it. Like you forget about the brain fog that you had yourself before getting, prepared for the class,
yes,
the working into finding the space, creating the sequencing, the curriculum that you're providing them to. And then once you see it all working, you're just like, yeah,
yeah,
that's what it's for. That's what this is
exactly.
about. Like, stop stressing yourself about everything else. This is what it's about.
Exactly.
I'm so glad you brought that up because I definitely wanted to ask you about how you intertwine your
Mhm.
professional career with the yoga career as well. Not
Yeah,
saying that yoga isn't, I should, let me rephrase that with combining both professions. There we
yeah,
go. Yes. Because I can't stand that. That was a pet peeve of mine when I started looking for a job after realizing that teaching yoga wasn't going to be what I needed to do or what was going to sustain my lifestyle. Um,
hmm,
but when people are like, "Oh, you got a job," I'm like, "I had one.
right,
I had a whole career actually. I had a whole
exactly,
career that I built myself." And
mhm,
don't say that I didn't have a job. I
right.
was working that entire time, hard as hell.
People don't realize how much goes into teaching yoga. Like, it's a lot. It's hard work.
It is so much hard work and that's what I wish more people understood because that phenomenon that happens with instructors sometimes is where we lose our own personal sadhana, our personal practice and
Yeah,
whatnot. It's because we're putting so much into everyone else that we don't have enough time or energy for us.
right, right.
And that's not necessarily what we came into it for, but
Mhm.
it's something that tends to happen because most people that go into teaching yoga do it because they're passionate about it.
Yeah,
And when
mhm,
you're that passionate about something, you put so much energy into it,
yeah,
so much of you into it. And
yeah.
then by the time it's time for you to do your thing, you're like,
Exactly. There's
man,
nothing left.
this
Yeah.
my practice is a bubble bath. That's it. I am meditating in the tub right now, and that's going to be my practice today. Like the physical part may not be as important after a while, but
Mhm.
we're going to get there. Um, so with this conversation that we've been having about building the confidence to do these things, I wanted to know what are some of the things that you do to kind of shake off some of the
Mhm.
nerves and the things that come up for you before teaching.
Yeah. Ooh, for me, it's, I mean, a lot of like self talk. Like, before teaching a class, if I notice that I'm feeling anxious, I'll just kind of pause. I pray, like, praying is a form of meditation for me. And so I'll just like I talk out loud when I pray, and I'll just say everything that I'm feeling, that I'm thinking. And then, I'll bring it to like, just like, Lord, please just allow me to be present in this space right now. Just allow me to do what I'm supposed to be doing, to not get caught up in X, Y, and Z. Please help me to not be anxious, to not be fearful, or if I'm anxious, to just move through that. So I try to like focus on just bringing this space of like, yes, I'm feeling like a lot. I'm having a lot of doubt and negative thoughts. And I know that this is just a product of my anxiety and imposter syndrome and things that are not me. And I just want to just ground myself and just flow through that. And even like as I'm teaching, if I notice like, okay, my hands are like shaking a little bit, I'm feeling nervous. And I always feel nervous at the start. And then I remind myself like, I so I'm gonna quick story. But one one time I was performing for this like big event. This is when I was dancing, and I was in the bathroom and just like practicing and doing my little anxious thing. And this woman came out of the stall and she was like, "Oh, what are you doing?" And I told her I was going to be performing, and then she was like, "Oh, how are you feeling?" "I'm feeling very nervous." And she's like, "That's good, because being nervous means that you care about what you're doing." And
Yes.
that was everything for me. And I never forgot that. And anytime I walk into doing something, so now with teaching, I just remind myself, like, you feel nervous because you care about what you're doing. If you
Mm-hmm.
ever reach a place where you don't feel nervous at any degree, that's probably not a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's either very ego ridden
Yeah,
or you don't care about
right, right.
that.
So reminding myself of that, helps me to like kind of reframe that. No, you're not feeling anxious because you don't know what you're doing. It's because you care about what you're doing. Um,
Yes.
yeah. And then it always goes away. It's like I feel nervous, and then once I get into the practice, I'm just flowing, and it's fine. So yeah, those are some of the things that I do to kind of help just like ground myself.
I so love that you brought that up about the being nervous, meaning that you care,
Mhm.
because that is something I say to folks a lot,
Mhm.
especially like newer instructors when they are overcome with all of that anxious energy, and I'm like, it's because you care about what it is that you're doing.
Yeah.
Like I channel that into your practice or the practice that you're
Mhm.
offering to people, because understand that it's because that you do want them to have a good experience. You want them to get something out of what it is that you offer. May not necessarily be that you want them to like you or with all this other stuff and worried about, oh, how many people are coming. It's like, no,
Right.
understand what those nerves are about. Because that's actually the first, that's what I was going to think is the first step is understand what the nerves are for.
Yeah.
Are you nervous about the content of the class? Are you nervous that people are going to show up at all? Are you
Mhm.
nervous about something kind of trivial, or are you nervous about something that's a little bit more substantial, which
Yeah.
would be in my mind the meat of the class? Because
Mhm.
that's what
Mhm.
I get nervous about. I'm like, oh my god, are they gonna like me? Are
Right.
they gonna like this? Like, is this going to be something that fulfills them in the way
Right.
that I want to or want it to, because that's exactly what I'm trying to do?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
am I going to fulfill that purpose? Those
Mhm.
nerves never go away. And I've been teaching for almost 8 years now. And
Mm.
it's every time that I get in front of people, I'm like, even in my one-on-one sessions, I'm like, oh God, okay, breathe. Like, and I have to do that self-talk and just kind of, understands, like, what you're doing.
Mhm.
You've been doing this for a while now.
Yeah.
And if someone's not having a good time, you do know when they are not having a good
Yeah.
time. And if you need to adjust, you know exactly what you need to do to adjust. You
Mhm.
got this. And
Mhm.
it's and like that talking out loud to yourself. Oh my God.
Oh, yeah.
We're twins on that one. The conversations that I have with me, whoo, it's like, because I'll be in my head saying one thing, but then I will verbally be like, shut up. You're doing that thing again, and I need you to
Yeah.
stop. Like,
Yeah.
you're fine. You got this. You
Right.
can do this. So to anyone out there listening that is either embarking on their teaching journey or just getting started or has been going for a while, you're not alone. We
Yeah.
all get nervous, and it's okay. It's because you love what you do and
Mhm.
you care about the people that you are serving,
Yeah.
and there's nothing wrong with that.
And that in itself, like hearing you say that, like I've been teaching for 8 years and I experience these things, that helps me. That helps me feel more grounded, because sometimes you feel like you're the only one that still gets nervous or doubts, and that just feeling alone in itself then compounds that. But then when you hear other people say, it's like, okay, okay,
Yes.
you too. All right, it's not just me.
Exactly. And not to mention, like, having that additional layer of us being Black women in
Yes.
this space,
Yeah.
it adds an other layer, because that's another thing that I will realize that I'm talking to myself about is like, what type of audience am I going to be in front of? Are they going to accept me?
Yes.
That one, oh,
Mm.
that one is a I'll admit that one's a tricky one to overcome because
Yeah.
that's a societal thing that you encounter, not even, outside of the yoga space as well.
Mm.
So it's hard to navigate around that one. But that's where I'll also tell myself,
Mm.
you know what you're doing. You deserve to be here just as much as
Yeah.
anybody else. And if anybody else has a problem with that, that is a them problem, not a you problem.
Yeah.
You were called to be here for a reason.
Mm.
Sit in that, own that, accept that, and
Mm.
do your damn thing.
Ooh, that right there could be a whole topic in itself. And I'll tell you, like when I did started my the trauma yoga class, and because it was community based and there's like a mixture of different demographics,
Mhm.
I was very intentional about putting my picture on the flyer because I don't want anybody to
Yeah.
show up and be like, "Oh, you're the teacher."
Mm-hmm.
We're, I'm not even, no, we're not doing that. Like, this is what you're getting. And yes, I am a Black woman and you can come if you want. So it's like, and it's sad that we have to like think about that. Like, is somebody going to take me seriously, or are they going to believe that I'm actually
Yeah.
the teacher, or are they going to accept me because of the color of my skin, because I have locks, because,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's the whole thing.
It's rough, but we out here doing it. We out
Yeah.
here changing minds one day at a time.
Yeah.
And I'm never stopping. I'm
Hmm.
never stopping because I'm tired of those biases existing still
Yeah.
and folks not giving us a chance when we deserve just as much as anybody else.
Right.
Oh man, when you said the putting the picture up on
Mm.
things, like I didn't realize that I get a little anxious about that too,
Mm.
because my name doesn't necessarily give away that I'm Black, but
Mhm.
they definitely will be like, is she though?
Right. Right.
And so as soon as they see my name, it's like, all right, they're already assuming it's not a white person.
Mhm.
And I'm like, okay, I already have to battle that. Then
Yeah.
them pronouncing it wrong and all these other things. And then the disrespect that comes with all of that. And it's just like, oh, it's a constant battle of, do I want to keep going? And I
Mhm.
will always be like, yes,
Mhm. Mhm.
yes,
Yeah.
because this is what I want to do. And I'm
Yeah.
not going to let anybody take that shine away from me. I'm not going to let somebody steal my joy or steal my passions because of biases that they have. Because
Yeah.
again, that is a them problem, not a me problem. I'm
Exactly.
fine right where I'm at, and if you want to be on the train with me, stay on the train, take a ride. It's really scenic and beautiful. But if you don't want to ride, then go find another vehicle to travel in. That's
Right.
fine. That's fine. I'm okay with that. There's nothing wrong with that. Nobody said you had to love or like any of us, but be
Mhm.
respectful.
Right. Exactly. Mhm.
Be respectful. Yes, I love that we're changing the game.
Yeah.
Just and like being out here vibrant and in our presence. I love that so
Yeah.
much. So thank you for continuing to shine your light and affects change in so many people, because that program that you were telling me about, I was beaming. Girl, I was beaming. I'm like, oh my gosh, I love that. And the fact that that space is donating their location,
Yeah.
oh, I love them and I want
I'm
to
so
hug and
grateful.
every single person that's doing that, because they are a part of something really magical for
Yeah.
the folks that you're serving.
Absolutely.
Ooh. So what's in store for you for the future then? We've talked about
Yeah.
where you are now. What are you thinking about doing in the future?
So I'm also starting my private practice soon, very soon. Uh, Already like almost accepting clients as a mental health therapist, my mental health therapy private practice. And so in terms of like what's in store yoga wise, I want yoga to be a part of my practice. So I'm, kind of sitting down and thinking about like how I want to do that. So kind of
Mm-hmm.
going back to what you were saying about like the merging of these two professions. So that's kind of in the, blueprint process right now. And outside of like what I'm doing currently, future wise, I just want to I want to build what I'm doing. I want to get to a place where I'm able to reach, those in my area. And so like the marketing and really getting out there. And I want to provide a space where my community, people of color, can feel safe going to yoga. And I want to be one of those people to provide that space. And there are other great Black yoga teachers as well who are also serving that purpose. And so, yeah, so I just want to build from where I am and also grow more into like my identity as a yoga teacher. Like as time passes, it's like I'm figuring out like, oh yeah, I do like to do that, or I don't really care to do that. And just really building on that and just reaching like whatever it is. I'm a very like purpose focused person. I believe, everybody has a space that they're supposed to be in, and I'm on that path to like, I know there's something big that I'm working towards. I can't fully see it yet, but I just want to stay on that path and just keep moving forward.
I love your vision. That is so dope. And you've said this a couple of times about finding who you are as an
Mhm.
instructor. I wanted to touch on that along with you. That is so important
Yeah.
in combating the issues that we were speaking on.
Mhm.
Um, Once you feel like you know your why, oh, confidence out the roof.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
confidence out the roof. And it just seems like everything tends to fall into place after that point
Yeah.
because now you are sitting in your purpose that aligns with you. And man,
Mhm.
the things that will start happening for you, and I know you're already experiencing it. You've already talked about all of the things that you're now experiencing and the things that you're building.
Yeah.
Whew. God, I love that. I got a little bit of a goosebump situation going on when you said that. I was like, oh yes, that just brought something to my heart that just felt so damn good. I am loving your energy. This has been such a affirming conversation.
Yeah. I feel the same way
Yes.
with you.
Yes, because you've brought up things that I didn't realize that I was still dealing with.
Mhm.
And I thank you for that because I don't know if it's possible to continue, growing
Mhm.
without having that awareness of, of self. So thank you. I'm finding that this whole platform has been my why because
Yeah.
I've kind of edged away from teaching group classes,
Mhm.
but I'm never letting go of this.
Yeah.
And it's become my way of sharing yoga.
Yeah.
These are my yoga classes now.
Mhm.
And I'm I don't it's like I'm wanting others to get so much from it, but I feel like I'm feeling a little selfish right now. I'm getting a lot from this and I'm getting emotional as I think about it too because it's just it's just amazing the way that this path will mold but shift.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like it'll fit you in the vessel that you're in presently, but
Yeah.
as you start to shift, it'll shift right along with you.
Yeah.
And you
And
have to be okay with that.
right, right. And I just want to say, like, I love that you're doing this in a podcast space because as a teacher, and I listened to actually listened to the interview you had with Mars. Um,
Yes.
yeah, he's also been following his page, but it's so nice to hear from other Black yoga teachers, and then you just see the humanity in them because when you follow someone on social media, you're just seeing their highlights and all the,
Right.
and then to hear people just like be human and talk about the struggles like that for me is so helpful. So again, it kind of goes back to like, okay, I'm not the only one. Okay,
Yes.
so
And
you're
that
doing
brings
good.
it all back to the representation mattering
Mhm.
because it's it's one thing to see, like you mentioned, the things on Instagram, but it's
Mhm.
another to understand the full context of folks' experiences.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, I can see all of the awesome Instagram pages and be
Yeah.
so inspired, and I always will be. But it takes it another level when you start to get to know the person
Yeah.
and what they've experienced, and the things that they're working through are really reminiscent to the same things that you might be working through
Right.
in a different way or in a different phase of your life. But
Mhm.
we all end up going through so much similar things. And
Yeah.
I don't know, have you experienced this where folks will kind of, oh, what's the word I'm looking for, as a yoga instructor, they kind of I don't want to say glamorize, but put you on a
Mhm.
bit of a pedestal, I guess, and just kind
Mhm.
of, I don't want to say deify, but
Yeah.
maybe it's more guru, like turn you into like that guru type of a thing. And I'm just like, hold up a second. I am just
Right.
as human as you are, having a very
Right.
human experience. I'm freaking out up here, and you're over here trying to worship me. No.
Right.
It's
Yes.
like, I need you to see the humanity in me because I don't know it all. Like, yes, I'm up here
Right.
trying to help you, guide you through this stuff too, but we're on a journey together.
Right, exactly. No, I definitely relate to that. Or sometimes I have people like ask me, send me DMs or ask me questions about things that are not even like really within the scope of a yoga teacher. And I'm like, you should probably be seeing like medical specialists about that. It's like, I
And see,
don't
but you
know.
have an edge because you are.
Well, clinically, when it comes to mental health, yes. But when
Yeah.
I'm talking about like physical and anatomy and like
Yeah,
stuff
that stuff. Yeah.
in a different scope, I'm like, no.
Like, I know enough to get you through this class. I
Right,
cannot diagnose you with anything. I cannot provide you treatment. I
right.
cannot do any of these things. I know what I know in the realm of
Yeah,
yoga, not physical therapy, not
yeah,
any of that. Now, if I did and I could intertwine those things,
yeah.
understandable.
Mhm.
Absolutely understandable. But again, I ain't got no PhD in nothing. Don't do that to me.
And even with being a therapist, I still have to maintain that boundary. Like if I'm teaching yoga,
Absolutely.
I'm not your therapist here. Like that, these are two separate realms.
Big
Yeah.
time. Yeah, the stories that have been told to me unsolicited, and I'm just like,
Mhm.
I wish I could provide you the assistance that I know you're looking for.
Yeah,
I'm not that girl. I
yeah,
don't have the qualifications for that, and I am so grateful that you feel comfortable sharing.
yeah.
And I'll always allow you to share, but if you're looking for solutions, I ain't
Hmm.
got it. I'm
Right, right.
sorry. It's like, yes, this practice is intended to, open you up and do all of those things and put you on the path to your healing. But I am just the tour guide on that journey, not
Yeah.
necessarily the person that's holding your hand through it and
Mhm.
advising you. I know about the trip that we're on. I don't know about your personal things.
Right. Right. Exactly.
And that's what I tend to say that a lot in when I'm in my classes. I'm like, think of this class as we're on a trip and on a journey together, and I'm your tour guide. I'll
Yeah.
get you through the trip, but anything else after that, you're gonna have to research on your own. I ain't got it. I ain't got it. Oh, so this is kind of off topic, but still
Mhm.
kind of on topic. You mentioned that you were a dancer, and I'm just going to say not even were are. You're always going to be a
Yes.
dancer,
Yeah.
and you're also in the mental health profession. But what do you think your life would have looked like if you hadn't also added yoga in?
Mm. Okay. Okay. Um, wow. I I would imagine that I probably would have latched on to some other practice because like I was saying, I was in this space when I found yoga. There was a void because I had stopped like perform dancing in the form of like performance and being on a team, and
Mm-hmm.
I was looking for like something to fill that space. And so if I had not ventured onto yoga, I imagine I probably would have found something else that would have been my yoga. Um, when it comes to like the personal transformation that's come through yoga, it's really hard to say like, okay, would have I still had arrived here
Right?
if it were something else? I don't know.
Yeah. I know. I wanted to ask that question just because it's hard to imagine a
Yeah.
different reality because I can't imagine where I would have been without finding yoga
Yeah.
or yoga finding me.
Right.
Yeah, because I'm not going to Christopher Columbus this thing. It found me. Yeah, definitely. I wanted to know more about the dance background though. What type of
Okay.
dance were you into?
Yeah. So when I initially started out with ballet when I was a kid, and I stopped doing ballet at some point. It wasn't like that fulfilling to me, but it gave me the foundation of dance. Then from there, I went into, so my older sister also was dancing, and but she was less of like, I was more of like, I want to be on dance teams and compete, and she was more of like the person at the party that's in the middle of the dance floor, the freestyle, like all eyes on
Yes.
her person. So she did a lot of like Caribbean style of dance, so dance hall soca, all of that. And so she brought me into that world, like the dance hall scene. And so like we would form teams, like we would get girls that like we met, like, oh, okay, she could dance, or like, oh, my friend can dance, and we would form teams and go out and just perform at different events. So that was happening, as I was growing up. Middle school, I was heavy into athletics. I was on the basketball team, soccer team, track and field, and then I was doing dance like outside of school. High school, I was on the cheerleading team. I was on the basketball cheerleading team, which was very dance focused. Cheer, there was like the traditional cheer, but also very dance focused, and that's what drew me to it.
Yeah.
And then I was also doing rhythmic gymnastics, which is kind of like dance and gymnastics combined to a certain degree. That was awesome. And so then college, I was on a Caribbean dance team called Collision, and we, competed. We did performances on campus, also outside of campus. That was like my best dance experience ever. And we also were in music videos. Like we did a video with Patrice Roberts and Ricardo Drew, and so that was it. It was an amazing experience being on that team. And then after college, I started doing my own like freelance, like just people would call me like, hey, can you perform at this event? So I was, just kind of solo doing my own thing, doing my own choreography. That was fun, but it was a lot of work. It would like take me so much time to like come up with the choreography, and I'm a perfectionist, and so it was taking a lot of energy out of me, so I kind of cut down on that.
Mm.
And now dance is just fun for me. Like I'll go to dance classes. I like to go to different fetes and carnival, and I have to like, if I go too much time and I haven't been out dancing, I'm like calling up my friend like, hey, let's go out to this thing. And me and my friend Vershawn, like she's kind of like my dance soul sister. I kind of see her as, and we just vibe really hard when it comes to like dancing. She's also one of my closest friends, but we go to every like the carnivals, like Miami Carnival every year. That's our thing. Like booking hotel months in advance. We're going.
That's
Any
what's
major
up.
set, like we're there. So yeah. So now dance is just more of like my fun, my release. Yeah, that's my dance life.
That's so good. We all need something like that because this capitalistic world will suck the joy out of so many things because we want to spend time on it. But in this society, time is money. And if it's not making you money, do you really have the time?
Right.
And so many of us will monetize our hobbies and
Mhm.
lose the joy because now we're relying on it to bring in some type of support to
Yeah.
us. But aside from just providing joy and relaxation and fun. So I'm glad that you were able to navigate back to a space where it's enjoyable again, because I'm
Yes.
experiencing that with yoga,
Good.
because I had made it my profession.
Hmm.
Um, I lost so much of the joy that it was bringing me because I was like, I need to pay my bills.
Right. It changes the dynamic. Yeah.
Yes, it really does. So, and it's something that I considered at the time of making the switch, but I was I was a little cocky. I'll admit it. I'm like, no, I'll be fine. I practice,
Yeah.
enough and I'll be okay. Whew. Corona came around and I was like, yo,
Mhm.
I gotta hustle because these studios closed. I ain't got nothing going on except for my unemployment. That's not
Right.
cutting it. Like, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's tough to navigate this world to, bring joy back to in the things, or join back into the things that you started because you were passionate about it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then at some point it became professional.
Hmm. Yeah. And I
Ah,
tell
man.
myself if yoga ever starts to feel like a job, I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
That's one thing I don't want to turn into like feeling like a job.
And if it does, don't feel bad about taking the break.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
feel bad about it at all. Because that was something I had to tell myself, because I was kind of hard on myself at giving up all of my classes when I started
Mm.
this new job. Um, but now I'm realizing there is no way in hell I would have been able to do this full time job and teach multiple classes afterwards
Yeah.
and be okay.
Yeah.
Like that is just, it's not, no, just take the break and be fine with that. This
Yeah.
is just where you are in the space of your life.
Hmm.
And it's allowing me to bring the joy back into yoga for me,
Hmm.
because it's just mine now and it's not my job.
Right.
Even though I will at some point get back into classes, but no, I needed to find that joy in it again. So
Yeah.
very similarly to your journey with dance, I'm slowly getting back into just the joy of the practice. And
Mhm.
it's a lot of by myself type of a thing.
Yeah.
Like I had to step away from studios for a minute because it was just too much.
Mm.
Too damn much. What other things? So you also mentioned that you enjoy all things wheels.
Yeah.
So give me the list again of all of the things.
So rollerblading, roller skating. I mean, I guess you can think of them as one and the same, but different.
They are a little. The mechanism is different.
Yeah, it
And
is.
folks know that's why there's folks that are either scared of the quads or scared of
Right.
rollerblades because the mechanism is different.
And I love both. But rollerblades I like for outdoor. The quads I like for
Yeah.
indoor skating. And then skateboarding. So that was another thing I picked up in 2020 during the pandemic. I always wanted to learn how to skateboard, but I always thought of it as like, oh, that's what white boys do, and that's for kids. And I was like, no, I can do it too. And I actually found this page on Instagram for like Black women who are skateboarders. And I remember them posting this picture of this beautiful, like tall Black woman, big afro, and she's skating. And I was like, man, if I would have saw that picture as a kid, I probably would have picked up skating a long time ago. But again, that representation, not seeing it, not thinking like, oh, that's not for me.
It's
But
so important.
hmm
It is
hmm
so important because we're at the time that we're recording this. I'm going to talk about it. The Little Mermaid movie,
mm,
live action movie, comes out next weekend,
yeah.
and the talk that is being spread around this movie about the representation of Halle Bailey being cast as Ariel.
Mm,
I don't think folks get it
yeah.
fully
Yeah.
because it's more than just seeing her on the screen as Ariel.
Hmm.
It's the way that she got the job.
Mm,
The fact that they saw her, saw something in her that was like, that's Ariel.
hmm
That's something that we aren't always afforded as Black people.
Yeah.
Like, we can be overqualified for any and everything that we wanted to do, but we won't get chosen because of the fact that we don't fit the look,
Right.
quote unquote.
Right.
And the fact that they're just like, fuck that shit. She's got a beautiful voice. She's got the essence.
Yeah.
She's Ariel.
Yeah.
And they just went with it. That's what it's about. More so than just the visual of seeing a Black woman as this iconic character.
Right.
And if we had more of that in every aspect of life, so many of us would not have those thoughts that we do have, or, you know, or even have the confidence issues that we were speaking of. It would feel so much more natural because it's something that we've seen. Right. It's something that we know exists. But because that isn't there, we tend to question, like, is this right? Should I? Am I allowed to? Yeah, you are. If you want to skateboard till you can't skateboard anymore. Like, the only thing that should tell you that you can't skateboard anymore is if your knees are cracking too much.
Exactly. Yeah, the representation piece is so pivotal, and it's like, when you don't see yourself, it's not even like you're overtly saying to yourself like, oh, I can't do it. It's subconscious, it's so insidious, and it's like a seed that's even like blocking your brain from even seeing the possibility of you doing it.
Ooh, girl, you just said a word. Yes, it is like insidious is the perfect word for that, because it doesn't hit you until you finally see representation, and then all of a sudden you are overcome with emotion.
Right.
And you're like, why am I crying? Why am I crying? All I saw was a little Black girl on a skateboard. Why am I crying? It's like, because you didn't see that before. You didn't know that could exist, and that it's something that you should have tried a long time ago, if that's what you wanted to do. Because, man, I'm telling you, when I go see this movie, I'm a wreck the entire time.
Definitely. I'm planning to go see it too.
Gonna be a wreck the entire time. Oh my gosh. And anytime that I will walk into, like, it still happens when I take a class with another Black instructor, I am just sitting there like just so giddy and just like, oh my God, look it, they look like me. We do this, even though I do it too. And I'm like, look it. Oh my God. Or even with and even on the other side of it, you know, as the instructor, seeing another Black person come to my class, I'm like, give me a hug. Like, thank you for being here. Yes, you should be here. You need to be here. You deserve to be here. Come do this with me. Thank you so much for being here.
I can't tell you how many times I've because sometimes I'll ask people like, oh, how did you hear about the class, or what made you come? And when it's like Black people or Black women, I remember one Black woman, she even said to me like, I saw a Black woman on the flyer. I saw someone who looked like me, and that's why I came. And that response always like, yep, that's why I'm here.
Instant smile. Instant smile. I am ear to ear on it. Like, you done gassed me up now, baby. It's like, oh, we are going to have a fun time today. Thank you for that vote of confidence that I needed, because man, it is tough being out here in this yoga world where you want to spread the practice to more of our community, but there's still so much whiteness in it that it's hard to, you know, navigate away from that. But anyway, I digress. We are nearing the end of our time together, and I'm sad about it. But I want to ask you my traditional question that I ask to everyone, for you to provide some advice to those that are looking to start a practice or move their positioning from just student to student into teaching. What advice would you give to those folks?
Okay. So someone who wants to start their practice, as in like someone who doesn't do yoga and wants to start doing yoga? Okay. So I'll speak to that first. I would say, like, just if you don't feel because sometimes people don't feel comfortable going to a class. Like, first, I want to encourage you to just do it, even if you are having all kinds of thoughts and doubts about your ability. Like, you don't need to be flexible. You don't need to look any certain way. Just show up. Maybe even like find a class or someone that you feel a sense of like connection or you relate in some way. So just thinking about that aspect too, but just showing up and doing the practice, see how you feel. And if you don't like the class, like, find a different class. It's okay. If you don't feel comfortable going to a class, maybe just starting with YouTube videos. That's what I did for years. And just finding some a yoga teacher who does yoga on YouTube that you connect with, and maybe just starting there, and maybe when you feel more comfortable you can build confidence to go to a class. Your practice doesn't have to be in a yoga class. Like, I had a very fulfilling yoga practice, just me and myself in my house.
Yes.
So you can do that too, and that is okay. um, and then and also, like, starting off slow. You don't have to like do a whole 60-minute class. You can start with just doing a 10-minute class and just progressively getting there, or maybe 10 minutes is all you need. Like, fine, do that. Like, do what works for you. Um, and for the person who wants to become a yoga teacher, I would definitely, if you're like looking into different yoga teacher trainings, I hope you can find someone that, if you are a person of color, if you can find someone who is also a person of color, or someone that you relate to on some identity level or some personal level. Because for me, like, that was very powerful, to feel like I was seen and understood as an individual within a yoga class. If you can't, just maybe ask around, get suggestions on a good yoga teacher training. Even if you go through a yoga teacher training and let's say you didn't quite enjoy the experience, but whatever, you got your certification, the learning doesn't stop there. Like, you can continue to build on your learning. You get the books, you can, build your knowledge base. Like, you have to build your knowledge base from there. So it doesn't stop there. Just get that certification, and then you can kind of mold yourself into, the teacher that you want to be, from there. And just listening to find podcasts, that you are geared towards yoga teachers. So I remember the podcaster I referenced earlier, her name is Cora. Do you know who I'm talking about?
It
I
sounds familiar.
I'm pulling up my Apple podcast right now because she's saved on my thing, because I want
Yeah, because
her
I was going
people.
to ask you too.
It's called The Business of Teaching Yoga. That's the name of the podcast. And it's Cora. I can't pronounce her last name. It's Geroux. And first name Cora, Cora. She is a white woman, but I personally felt very connected to a lot of her content. And she seems to be very like self-aware, aware of, the disadvantages that come with people of color in this space. I've heard her speak to that before. So I personally really like her content, and I that helped me a lot in, building as a yoga teacher, learning about this business and how to navigate different avenues of this business. So highly recommend her podcast. But like, yeah, finding podcasts, finding Instagram pages with other yoga, connecting with other yoga teachers who are in
Yes.
different phases of this game. You got people who've been in the game 20, 30 plus years. You got people who are just starting out, and you can learn from all of them. I've learned a lot from following different pages. So finding community, whether that be virtual or in person, keep learning, and just push yourself. Like, if you feel uncomfortable, it's okay. You can still do it even if you're not confident. Even if you don't feel like you know it all, you can still do it. And if you mess up or you quote unquote fail, I don't believe in failure. You succeed or you learn something. It's one or the other. So yeah, that's what I got.
No, that was beautiful advice. Thank you so much for providing that, because you touched on so many good things. So many good things. Tammy, I hate that this is coming to an end,
I
and we're
know.
going to have to revisit this again at some point.
Yes.
So thank you so much for your time being here. Where can the folks find you on social media and the like?
Yeah. So my Instagram is tammy.yoga. So TAMMY.yoga. My website is tammyyogaflow.com. I'm also on TikTok, Tammy Yoga. And yeah, I'm also on Facebook, Tammy Yoga. That's where you can find me. If you hit the link in my bio on my Instagram, you can find everything that I do, the classes I'm currently teaching, and my podcast. I also have a podcast called Honest Conversations, and that's focused on like mental health, relationships, social issues, and we just having kind of like this natural conversations about
Yes.
different topics. Yeah, so that's where you can find me. And Tierney, I just want to thank you for having me on. Like when I saw you post on Instagram about this, like calling for yoga teachers, I was like, oh my gosh, I am so there. Like I pulled up that Google Doc so
Yes.
quick. And I'm so thankful for you for like building this space for Black yoga teachers. Like this is everything. So thank you.
Oh, you are so welcome, and thank you for keeping this alive. Because I say it every time, this can't happen without y'all. So,
Mm.
thank you for being able to contribute to this and keep it going. It's important for us to have community within each other
Mm.
because of that loneliness that can happen, being kind of a outlier in this yoga industrial complex.
Mhm.
So I'm happy to provide space for us to get to know each other and build some type of camaraderie and community with each other, so that way we can continue to thrive in what it is that we are passionate about doing.
Yes.
So yeah, always going to be super thankful to all of you for keeping the fire going.
Mm.
Yes. All right, folks, that is it for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. You heard where all of her socials are, so go follow her on every single one of them. Check out her podcast too. We'll be back next week with another fantastic guest. And I am out of here. Tammy's out of here. Thank you so much for your time. We'll see y'all
Bye.
next week. Bye. Thanks for tuning in to the Yoga in Black podcast. I hope you enjoyed our conversation today. It would be so dope if you could leave a comment or a rating on whichever platform you're listening or watching from today, just to let us know exactly how we're doing. You can also help support the show by providing donations via Spotify, and the link is also on our website. If you are a Black yoga teacher or holistic wellness professional and would like to be on the show, join our wait list. Sign up is available on our website in the Let's Talk section. Here's where you can find us on our social media: Instagram at yoga.inblack and Facebook Yoga in Black. Head to www.yogainblack.net for all your YIB needs. Next episode, you'll meet Leah Franklin. New episodes air every Tuesday. And thanks again for all of your support, because this could not be done without you all. Have a good day.